which means that I can then go and with the Green Homes Grant, and then you can go to houses and you do reports for them and that kind of stuff. And there are still quite a lot of grants for insulation and all that kind of stuff still happening. So I did that for a couple of years, and which was interesting because you obviously learn about people, you learn about what people don't want to do in their houses, what they can do, the costs of things, all that kind of stuff, and also what's effective. So what I found which I'm very passionate about, is that in the end, with a house, let's see, what is this? Yes. So when it comes to decarbonisation and technology, that's my boss, that's me. Blah 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 about the company, why it comes. So you probably know this anyway, but so 23% of the entire UK carbon is burnt in the house with gas heating. So if you take a flight, nationally, flights are 7%. Yeah. So if we all stopped flying completely, we cut by 7%, but heating is 23%. Yeah. So it's fantastic. There's things about gardening and community is really, really important thing. And I grow some vegetables and fruit, like I was saying. So that's all really good. And things like not flying are really good, and recycling is really good, etc., etc. But 23% is through burning gas. And quite a lot of people don't realise. I was doing something in Dulwich. I was starting a little community net zero group, and there was a Friends of the Earth lady there, and she said, "Oh, I don't drive, I don't fly, and I do lots of recycling, and I'm a vegetarian, and all this kind of thing." And I said, "So what do you do in the house?" And she burnt gas, and she didn't realise that was had any effect, because people don't see it. They don't see lots of smoke coming out the house, do they? It's invisible. Carbon dioxide comes out, the gas flue, invisible. So it's really easy to forget. So when I was doing these houses, we were doing stuff. How much does it cost to insulate? What can you do? And it's just by far, if you're burning gas in the house, the effect of not burning gas is just huge compared to anything else. Compared to insulation, it's vastly more carbon reducing than even insulating. So this property is newish, but if you insulated this amazingly, with triple glazing windows and floor insulation, whatever, you could reduce the carbon footprint by 50%, which is great. So you think, okay, I'm burning 50% less fuel. But the heat pump will take it down to 25% for less money as well. So this is why I changed from going into houses and doing reports and being, in a sense, a consultant on that, into trying to actually get people to do this basic thing, which is a heat pump. So that's my journey, personal journey. That's not to say that all these other things are really important, flying, all the things that Transition Town stuff does, which is really good.
May I just ask you?
Yes, anytime ask a question.
Are we talking specifically ground source, or can we have air source heat pumps?
Okay, so ground source heat pump, if you know, are the bigger, very much more expensive thing when you dig up the ground. So generally, it's gone by, we're going to air source heat pumps, basically, because it's just ground source, it's just so expensive. And it used to be that they were a more efficient way of doing it, but actually now the air source heat pumps are very efficient, and the cost and disruption is vastly less doing it.
So in a conservation area with tiled roofing with a central flat roof, and you pop a an air source heat pump?
You can put it on a roof. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's just to explain. That's why you might think, why am I coming here and talking about heat pumps? Because for me, it is the route for decarbonising in the house. Now, the interesting thing that not many people are here, but there's a £7,500 grant for putting in a heat pump.
Yeah.
That's not means tested. Anyone gets that, so that's quite a lot of money. It used to be 5,000, so £7,500 is what you get if you put a heat pump into your house. And it's getting generally easier. There were lots of rules and regulations, and it is getting a little bit easier. But still, there are still little barriers and tricky bits, conservation areas, the noise restraints, blah 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 blah. But yeah, the main deal is you get £7,500 as a grant. So you've probably noticed you bring this. So just to quickly say what a heat pump is, it doesn't create energy, it moves energy. Yeah? So there's energy in here, there's energy out there, there's energy everywhere. If I move the energy from outside to inside, using electricity, that's what a heat pump does. So it's not burning anything directly, and it's not creating energy, it's mostly moving energy. So, and the good news is that if I need 1 kilowatt of power, moving energy, I get 3 extra ones thrown in. So you're multiplying each kilowatt hour by 4, which is, if you imagine the government, they're thinking, how do we do this, all this power change over this transition across the country? How are we going to do it? Well, if we can do heat pumps, then we're dividing by 4 the amount of electricity you need to have through the wire. So you can see on a big infrastructure level, it's a really important thing. So it's every house has a heat pump, because they have a fridge is a heat pump, which basically moves the heat from inside the fridge to outside the fridge. And it's exactly the same way as we move heat from outside inside. And it's reversible as well. All heat pumps are reversible. So in the summer you can also, within reason, pump the heat out. You literally just flip the switch on the heat pump and it goes the other way. So it moves heat, and it moves heat very, very efficiently.
Can you store heat, say during the day on a hot day? Can you store it for use in the evening?
So the only way you can store heat really is either to put it into water, to have a great big tank of water, or if you heat up the building, then you have the thermal mass of the building. But it's tricky. Keeping heat is tricky because it always leaks out. But the main thing you need to do is heat. So if you have winter, what you don't want to do is just let the house get too cold in the day. You want to keep it warm-ish through the day, and so that in the night time you don't have to work so hard to keep it warm. So you use the thermal mass. There's always thermal mass in a building. So when people say, how can it be more than 100% efficient? Which it is, it's 400% efficient. People say, well, it can't possibly be that. It's because it's not creating energy, it's moving energy. So there's something, when I first did my first installation, it was a cold day outside, and we turned the new heat pump on, and it heated up hot water in the hot tank, and we turned the hot water in those, and through the tap was just hot water, and it's just magical. It's almost moving actually, because you think, wow, it's taking heat from this cold day outside, bringing it in enough to have a hot shower. So there is something rather amazing about it, which is probably why I work for heat pump company, because it's kind of, so that's what it does, it moves the energy. It's obviously a great idea to try and combine all solar panels and battery, but again, that's more money, and it's more complex, it's a bit more complexity, but the golden sort of triangle, as it were, is heat pump with solar panels and a battery. Now I could talk for hours about all the way those combine, but it's definitely worth thinking about because the battery reduces your costs because you can have low tariff electricity. Overnight you can store in the battery, and obviously like today, for instance, there's going to be, you have so much solar energy, it would obviously create hot water for you, and people are finding that they can go pretty much off grid from March to October, which is quite extraordinary. Because if you think about it, there's every kilowatt that comes from the solar panels, you can multiply by 4 with your heat pump. Yeah, because that 1 kilowatt that comes from the roof is multiplied by, you multiply that by 4 because you're moving the heat, using that electricity to move the heat inside, and you can put it into your hot water or into your heat.
What about using solar thermal?
So solar thermal has is still good, but it's kind of, the industry's kind of moved away a bit from that because it is efficient. So on a day like this, solar thermal it would be brilliant. So it would be creating lots of hot water. It's just that, do you want hot water today? So it can only do this one thing. Do you always want? So what happens if you go away for holiday and it's still? So it's that thing of how useful is it just creating hot water? Whereas we're finding with solar panels, particularly because you've got this multiplication factor, then is it actually sensible?
Or solar, because that's the confusion. You say solar PV or solar thermal.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm not against solar thermal. We don't do it, and not many people do now because of this everything going electric thing. So obviously, if you have an electric car, you can put your solar panels in there. So solar thermal just creates hot water. It's great, but it just doesn't have all that flexibility that electricity does. It's things have moved on a bit, I think, really. People still have their solar thermal units, but it's once you think it through, you think, so how much time, if I spend all my money on solar thermal, so every hot day like this, or good day, I can create hot water. That is useful, but is it as useful as always having electricity? All the different things you can do with electricity. Put it in your car, put it in your heat pump.
I suppose, each individual, if you talk about your own house,
Yes.
you decide whether you needed lots of hot water, because if you were running a business car washing or whatever,
Sure.
then it might be more
Yes.
sensible to do that. But yeah,
Yes.
I take your point.
And
Yeah.
solar panels are so cheap now, of course. So back then, just plastering your house with solar panels is, it's not as expensive. It's a lot cheaper than it was. So that's the other thing, and they create more power as well. So the efficiency's gone up. So it's hard to resist solar panels now compared to solar thermal. But yeah, it's going to be different. Everyone's going to have different views. Of course, we know that electricity is 4 times the price of gas, so that's a bad one. But also the efficiency of the heat pump is 4 times. So in terms of actually how much money do you save, changing from burning gas to electric to using a heat pump, it's kind of on par. I've saved quite a lot of money with my first year of a heat pump for various reasons. So I got low tariff electricity, and I found I didn't need to use the heat pump that much because it's on very low and slow all the time. So actually it was really efficient. So I can show you my electric bill, but it's low. It's hard for us to always say that to customers because it's not, you be careful what you promise. But it's definitely on par, and I think most customers will save money with it.
How many years is the payback period?
How many?
Years for payback period of installing home?
So, yes, so you have to think, what would your payback be on your gas boiler?
Yeah.
So this is the funny thing, sorry, I'm contesting you there. So people talk about payback. So for years we've been buying gas boilers, and oil boilers. And what's the payback on that? There's no payback. So now we're comparing one with the other, which is I get your question, yes. But it's just sometimes good to get out of the mindset of payback. But so if you, in terms of carbon, there's no question. If the installation costs 14,000 maybe total, it varies, but that's it. And you get your grant, your £7.5 grand grant, so that's maybe 6,000 or whatever. How much are you saving every year financially? Hard to say. Maybe, I don't know, let's say maybe saving £300 a year or something. But it's going to vary so much depending on what temperature you want your house. So it's hard to promise. So I would never do payback as a sales thing, because it would be very, very hard to put it into real numbers. It's definitely been cheaper for me with a heat pump compared to gas. How much? I don't know. Maybe £300 a year. So as you probably know, if someone said when they put double glazing in, do you know what the payback period is for double glazing? It's about 100 years. Because a nice double glazing unit is thousands of pounds. The amount of energy you save by putting double glazing in is good, but for the thousands of pounds you spend, it takes literally 100 years, or maybe 200 years to pay back.
Well, it might last that long.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
So
it's made of plastic.
So exactly. So this whole payback thing, you have to think, well, okay, well, is it more efficient? Is it cozier? Is it better for us? Is it better for the environment?
Because in theory, it can't just be calculate the payback period, for example, 6 years for solar panels
Yes.
or heat
Exactly.
pumps.
Exactly.
Or anything, but in practical, that is just because of this, I wanted to ask you.
Yes,
how is the real?
Yes, the real thing. So I think it's easier to be more specific with solar because you know it's just it's up there and how much. But so for instance, it's a huge difference depending on how warm you want your house. So I'm quite comfortable at 19 degrees. Some people will like it at 25. You're not going to save much money if it's at 25 degrees. But you are. So what can you say? So yeah.
So did you just attach your heat pump to the existing rads and everything?
Yes. So we've got some. I think we bought 2 or 3 new radiators, and I moved some around as well because some were too big for some places. So reduced them around a bit. I think. Can't remember what was that. Maybe 3 new radiators. And also I put my hot tank, because the other thing with a heat pump, you have to have a hot tank. So you can't run it like a combi. You can't just turn the heat pump on and it automatically produces your hot water as minute by minute. You've got to store it in the hot tank. But I have my hot tank outside, which is quite unusual. And thing on the right there, that's the main deal. There's the heat pump, minus 62%. So that's just, it just blows everything else out of water in terms of carbon. And then if you, obviously the solar panels and spaces, even better. So these are not my personal figures, but right there it says you can save 26% on. Personally, I wouldn't say that's good because you don't know.
So what's the green home?
Oh, sorry. Green home, I think that's a combination of battery and solar panels.
So not passive house or anything like that?
No,
just talking about.
No, just. So, what my main message with Retrofit is if you spend all your money on your house, making it super duper passive house. That's great, but make sure you don't burn gas. Because you'll spend so much money on the insulation and all the bits. You do the floor, you do the walls, you do the triple glazing, you do all the bits and pieces, and then just make sure you don't burn gas, because it's carbon footprint is.
So if I could get an air source heat pump on the roof, I would literally remove the gas boiler and install a hot water tank.
So, okay, so we can talk about it. Yes, let's talk about what actually it would. Well, tell you what, just one or two things, and then I'll tell you about. We'll talk about the research. So there's, for example, solid brick house, solid brick walls, uninsulated walls, single glazing, and the EPC rating went up by 10 points, literally by taking out the gas boiler, putting in a heat pump. Yeah, no other changes. So that's a really, really important message for architects and anyone in the retrofit world, because people used to think, oh, you've got to do all these other things. You know. So that is, and that's real. I did that. That's the house I did, and I did the EPC and put the numbers in. So here we go. So it sounds a bit salesy, but you know, so what would happen? Somebody gets in touch with us. They say. They give the address, and then we can get a quote on pretty much over the phone, or because we know that this kind of house it is. I do this assessment. Where's the heat pump going to go? Which is always kind of like, you know, is it going to go on the roof? Is it going to go in the garden? Is it going to go at the front? You have to work out where to put it. We do a heat loss calculation to make sure the heat pump's the right size and the radiators are the right size. Obviously we install, we take out the boiler, install it, and then obviously you have this, so we have the pipeline. So wherever you've got the heat pump, we work out, okay, so the pipes, flow and return have to go into the house obviously, and connect to the original space heating in your pipe work, and also where we put the hot tank. So there's a little bit of all that, where's that going to go, and how does that connect? And so we obviously talk about that before we proceed. So if you want it on your roof, we go, okay, so one, we have to make sure that the vibrations are okay, because you don't want it, they're very, very quiet, but there's still kind of, you know, there's going to be it's still electrical thing happening. So make sure that it's not going to bother you. If you're comfortable with that, particularly if it's a new roof as well. And then pipes, how they're going to get into the house, where they're going to go, electrical feed to it, and then just what, yeah, so those are the little details.
Can I remove all the radiators and have underfloor heating?
So you can, you don't have to. 10 years ago, again, there's everyone thought, oh, you have to have underfloor heating to go with a heat pump. It's just not true. So radiators are fine. I have radiators in my house. We do loads of installs with just radiators. But if you want underfloor heating, obviously it's more expensive, doing all the stuff, but you can do it. Yeah. You probably it will be more efficient with underfloor heating, because you've got this huge area, so very low flow temperature. But there's definitely no pressure to do that. And quite a lot of people have the ground floor as underfloor, and upstairs is the radiators, for instance. But we definitely don't request underfloor heating. And we can remote monitor, which is brilliant. So yesterday, again, this isn't showing off, but my boss said to the client, oh, is everything okay with the heat pump? Because you could see somebody, the builder turned it off, so you could see. So we got this remote. Yeah, you don't have to remote monitor, but we do if you want to, so we can see how it's actually working, which is pretty amazing. And probably very good if you were a social landlord as well. You could be useful, because you can tell, and actually you can make changes. You can actually make adjustments remotely.
Normally to install extra.
No, I think this is just the Valent. So the Valent has a. We do quite a lot of these Valent heat pumps. Yeah, there's an app that does all. So that's a really useful thing. So, yeah, that's the install process. About 3 days. It's 2 people for 3 days. That's usually what it is. Bit of electrical work. Obviously, you've got where to put the heat pump, where to put the hot tank, the pipeline. But it's not impossible to do. People go, oh, it's so huge disruption. No, it's not.
What did emitter design mean?
So our radiator is big enough. So if you
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
does that get it?
Yeah.
So so this is one of my jobs I do. So I go to the house. So this is the total. So 5.2 kilowatts. So that's the total power it needs on the coldest day, which we say is -2. This house is up on the floor, and these are the room temperatures that we make the calculation at. So we do this assessment, and so then, particularly with radiators. So is that radiator big enough to heat the room? Because you've got these low flow temperatures that we're using. So there's the tank. This is quite a nice little thing. You probably know about the heat battery, sun. So this is stores the heat. It melts crystals, salt crystals. So it's half the size. So when you've really got space constraints, you can put this in. It's a bit expensive at the moment, even though it's just made of salt. It's pretty expensive. So you've got, obviously we try and have a small tank if we can, just for saving space. If you've got loads of space, that's okay. If you haven't got there, and obviously that's the heat pump where to put it. So there are all these little kind of barriers, little bits and pieces you have to try and get over. It's a space for a hot tank. Where does the heat pump go? Pipe run, is that okay? How does it look? Bits and pieces. So there we go. So this is what I'm trying to change, because it looks so much of a big deal, doesn't it? Especially if you have a combi, like 80% of the population is lovely, just a tiny little combi. And the idea of taking that tiny, lovely little box out of the wall and then having to. So I'm hoping soon there'll be much more. So this is the sun out, just obviously under the counter. And I think also hot tanks will get smaller soon as well. And they'll just, the way they're working on the techniques of that. Because that's not going to fly, is it, across the country? How many people are going to want to do that in their homes? Some, but not so many. So main misconceptions, heat pumps don't work in existing buildings, so it's just not true. So we do loads of solid brick buildings, uninsulated solid brick buildings. I've got Victorian terrace uninsulated. So you don't have to have a passive house, you don't have to have a new house, you don't have to. And they don't need to be hugely insulated. And this has been a huge shift over the last 3 years, which is everyone's saying, oh, you've got to do the insulation. But it turns out, as long as your radiators are big enough, you get a very efficient heat pump. Obviously, it's good to have insulation, but don't blow your budget on the insulation. Make sure you've got enough money for the heat pump, because that's the decarbonising thing. And I'm not saying that just because I work for a company. You don't have to have underfloor heating as well. So it's just kind of a bit easier than everyone's been saying it is. And more opportunities for it. Oh, thank you. No, thank you. Obviously, if we can help you with your project, let us know. Got some nice reviews, blah, blah, blah. For the technical people here, so as it gets colder, so this is your efficiency, comes down, as it gets, this is an annoying thing about heat pumps, they get a bit less efficient as it gets colder, which is kind of not what you want, but that's life, because you have to create a higher temperature. There's a higher temperature difference between indoors and outdoors. So this coefficient of performance comes down as the temperature goes down. But my annual COP is 4.2, which is very good. That's with just a basic install, install. So for the year, every kilowatt hour of electricity I bought, I multiplied it by 4.2. Pretty good. But partly because I was cozy. This is the other thing which is really nice about a heat pump, the way you heat your house, because you're heating it low and slow. So you build it, you're not just heating up the air quickly and turning it off. You're heating it low and slow, so the whole fabric of the building gets warmer. And so when it's you get this radiant heat, which is just much more comfortable than just having hot air. So I think that's why people are finding that it's very efficient, because they don't actually need to have the heating as hot as you thought you did. Obviously, some people will want 25 degrees, and particular family, actually Indian families as well, because we're doing a lot of our installers are from this way, and they say, oh, they all want 25 degrees, so then that is hard work or expensive. But if you're happy, you can find that you can 19 or 20 degrees actually works pretty well. But if you can put it to any temperature you like, it's just obviously lower and more efficient. And obviously, of course, your hot water, you can do your hot water. People say, oh, you have to use an immersion for it, but you don't. So because most heat pumps now are so-called high temperature heat pumps. In other words, they go up to at least 70 degrees temperature. So you don't have to just blow your budget with using an immersion to get hot water really hot. So yeah, all your heating is done hot water, up to 70 degrees, and your space heating is all done with a heat pump. You shouldn't have to use an immersion. So you've got that efficiency all the time. The other things, yes, obviously airflow around the heat pump. We do a noise assessment. Usually not a problem. Bits and pieces. We do that's part of the sound assessment. How far is it from the neighbouring window? Stuff like that. That's it. So you can do. So that's quite fun. So the heat pump behind there. So you can, obviously you can't put a wall in front of it, but there's lots of air obviously coming through the gaps here and up top, so you can sort of hide it if you need to, or do other things like that. That's about it. Yeah, just to repeat my journey, which is from somebody very concerned about global warming. I mean, that's why I went into it at my advanced years and did the training. And definitely my journey was, okay, do we insulate, what can we do? And then all these questions about what to do with the house and all this information online, and it all gets very difficult. External insulation is hard. Fault dangers, internal insulation is tricky. So all these difficulties. And then in the end, oh my God, if we really are concerned with decarbonising, then the heat pump is just an obvious thing. Then the next step is to try and do it in a way which is right for your house. Hopefully not too expensive, obviously, because it is a piece of kit. And it is a sort of technical response to global warming, because quite a lot of I don't know who I have respect for. They're thinking, what do we do about not burning gas and oil and all that? And heat pumps definitely are a sort of technical response to that. It's a piece of kit, like electric car, you know, or a heat pump. But I do think that's actually pretty sensible. Not that we all have to buy electric cars, but in terms of how you're going to get through the winter, how are you going to keep your house warm? Because a lot of people have been burning wood, you know, which has its own issues. Of course, we're going to keep burning wood. People like burning wood, but the next step is, you know, how are you going to get through the winter? So you can have all your ecological ideas about you don't want to buy new stuff, you don't want to do the, you know, you don't want to buy plastic stuff, or you don't want to, you know, the minerals and all this kind of thing, you don't consume any more stuff. But the question is, that is the heat pump is the thing that helps you stop burning gas. And that's kind of, you know, an important bit really. So I hope I haven't been too kind of focused on that, but I do think there's a reason for being focused on that. Outside of that is solar panels, which are great. It's a sort of simple thing. You put solar panels on a roof. It's got no moving parts. They'll be up there for 25 years. If you've got a bit of roof space to do that, it's clearly a good thing. If you, at the moment, batteries are reasonably expensive. They're going to come down even cheaper soon, a year or two. They've come hugely down, but they're going to get even cheaper. If you can do that, then obviously you can store your nice low tariff electricity, or overnight electricity, or your solar panel electricity, and that's who makes. And that's where you, again, with the payback, what's the payback of a battery? It's much more, it is a bit easier to actually calculate that. And I think it's, again, it's 4 years. I haven't got a battery, but you've studied all this. So what's your view of all this?
But just it's a bit theoretical, but I think it's so different between eco and practical course, and just be calculated on paper.
Yeah.
I think it's so different.
It's difficult, yeah. I mean, I was, when I was doing more retrofit coordinator work, which is so the council will say, okay, go to that house and prove to me the cost, how much would it cost, what would be the payback, what would be the carbon payback, and you're trying to do that calculation. I can understand why people do that, because that's how funding works. But how difficult can it be? You know, just the electric price and the gas price changing, new technology coming along, how you use your house. It's tricky. I mean, I'd like to be able to say, you put a heat pump in to your particular house, and you will save £436 a year, you know, and so if you do that for 10 years, that's £4,360, and your heat pump costs you, you know, whatever, and there's the payback. I'd love to say that. What I can show you, which is true, which is my own personal one, which is, and this is the beauty of a smart meter. Smart meters are obviously essential for this, so that you can get your low tariff.
They work all the time, totally, don't they?
I know I never had any problem. Octopus Energy came in. I said I want a smart meter, and a month later they put the smart meter in for free, and it's been absolutely fine. But maybe not for everyone. Oh, that's interesting. I'm logged out of my